Both Matilda and I are very excited to be doing this workshop with you guys today. A little bit about myself. I'm a playwright. I'm a composer of musical theater, which combines the playwriting and the composition. I'm also an actor, and I'm an arts journalist. So I do a lot of theater reviews, interviews with different theater makers, and features about their work. I do both ends of the spectrum in terms of I do a lot of one-person plays, and I tend to write those and perform in those, or I write plays which have 30 different characters and are super epic and tend to be about historical subject matter. And I'm very interested in feminism throughout history, and also essentially the underbelly of society, the kind of misfits or outsiders and what their stories are.
Hello everyone, I'm Matilda, and I'm a playwright and screenwriter, and currently unlike Natasha, I do not perform, but I've gotten the chance through my work to work with lots of different types of performers and actors. My work tends to focus on things like disability, race, gender, sexuality, and I'm kind of at the beginning stages of dabbling into directing a bit more. But yeah, I kind of like to think of my work as quite Afrofuturistic, so I use a kind of lot of sci-fi and Yoruba cosmology, which is my heritage because I'm Nigerian. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this workshop and getting to know you all a little bit better. So this workshop is about turning your ideas into stories, and we want to kind of give you some tools about starting from very, very small ideas. You don't need to have fully fleshed characters or fully fleshed story. This is about how do we develop ideas from the kind of like the literal seed of an idea into something. So we are going to explore how you can take a subject matter that you are passionately about and develop this into material for a dramatic story.
During this workshop, we're going to be working on 3 activities. The first activity is going to get your creative juices flowing by answering a series of questions. The second activity will allow you to start writing some dialogue between 2 characters. And the third activity will look at the structure of a monologue and how you can write one for one of the characters you've created in activity 2, in exercise 2. We're also going to offer you a takeaway activity, which you can do after the session to further develop the story and characters you've created during the workshop.
Brilliant. So we'll get started.
This is exercise 1, questions to yourself. We're going to ask you 12 questions during this exercise. You're going to have about 30 seconds per question to answer before we move on to the next question. But don't worry, this isn't a test. These are just some writerly questions as a creative warm-up to start thinking about creating the seed of an idea. And it is very much about just jumping in and writing your first thought, using your gut instinct, and there's no wrong answers and there's no right answers. Okay. So the first thing we would like you to do is we'd like to write or type at the top of your page, my name is, your name, and I am a writer. This is to just get you in the space of, yes, I am a writer. Because sometimes us writers can feel a little bit like, oh, are we really a writer? But everyone can be a writer. And at this moment, you are a writer. So, writers, your first question is, what are you passionate about? Or the emphasis, what are you passionate about? This really can be anything. This can be from climate crisis, to friendship, to what you think about toxicity on social media, to I just really love cats. So what are you passionate about?
Cool. And then the next question is, what do you want to explore in your writing? And I guess thinking about what are you, from those kind of bullet points of ideas of things that you're passionate about, what excites you to write? So what do you want to explore? Of all of those things you've written down, what's the most exciting to you that you'd like to write, tell a story about, or explore?
Yeah, and also with this one, it could be that you're really interested in friendship, which is quite an open, broad topic. So you can go down different routes in terms of what about friendships that have rivalries, or what about friendships that are actually love interests. So that can be quite broad. But something like cats could be quite, it's just like, oh, I just actually just like my cat. Or is it an adventure for that cat? Okay, so the next question is, what do you want to say to the world? What do you want to say to the world? So everyone's got something to say. It can be from their own personal experience. It can be something that you feel very strongly about. Or it could just be something you find really amusing or funny, or something that you really have a gripe about, you know, that you find really frustrating about the world, and you're like, doesn't anyone feel the same as this, like same as me about this?
And don't shy away from like big unanswerable questions, like if there's just something that you've always wondered and pondered but didn't know the answer to, this writing's a great way of exploring those big questions.
Absolutely. And also many plays, many well-known plays, famous plays, actually do ask an unanswerable question. It's posing that question, and then through the telling of that story, there's lots of different ideas that come out of it, but you might not actually find out the answer. Theater is very much about asking unanswerable questions and getting people to think about what does it mean to be alive?
Great. Next question is, why must you say it? So why must you be the one to tell this story? And I guess think about what experiences you might have, what memories you might have, or any kind of skills or knowledge that you think will help you tell this story. So for me, personally, I write a lot about disability because that's my lived experience. I am a disabled person, but that doesn't necessarily mean I only want to tell stories about disabled people. But think about, why must you be the person to tell this story?
And also that doesn't mean that you have to be in the show necessarily. It could be that some of your characters will say things that you feel, so opinions that you hold, strong feelings, and then you might have characters in your piece that have the complete opposite opinion. And so what happens when you get, essentially, theater and drama is all about conflict. So if you have a very strongly held opinion about something, what happens when you write a character that has the complete opposite idea? And what happens when those two people get in a room? Okay, so moving on to the fifth question. What type of character would be the best person to tell this story? So we're thinking about the subjects that you're passionate about. Who might be the best person to tell this story? So thinking, let's say we take the climate crisis, or climate change, or climate emergency, whatever you would like to call it. Would the best person to tell this story be essentially Greta Thunberg, right? A young student who's going out on protests. They live with their grandparents. Their grandparents are climate crisis deniers. They won't let the child go. And what happens when that young student is like, no, I have to go on this protest? Or alternatively, is the story told from the point of view of a CEO of an oil company whose mind starts to be changed or not changed by the ongoing climate data, which is saying we need to sort this out very quickly. So what type of character might be the best person to tell this story?
And maybe it might be more than one character as well. If it could be an ensemble of characters you think are the best characters to tell this story. So then the next question is, where is the best place for this story to be told? So thinking about, if we're to use the climate example, thinking about, is this taking place at a protest? Is this taking place in a classroom? Is this taking place at some international conference about climate change? Or is this taking place in someone's bedroom? Thinking about where is the best place to tell this story. And it doesn't just have to be one location. It could be that your story needs lots of different locations. So think of as many places as you can.
Yeah, so just a couple of examples, some random examples, like taking place in a park, in a school classroom, in a graveyard, where might be
center,
and where might be exciting, because we've seen a lot of plays that take place in living rooms. So also thinking about where's somewhere that will create inherent drama. So let's say it was taking place on a protest. What happens when you get an opposing side, an opposing protesters coming in? Or what happens if a firebomb goes off in the middle of the protest? Or what happens if the police come and start kettling people, start stopping the protesters from going any further? Okay, so question 7 of 12. What are 3 themes that support your idea? What are 3 themes that support your idea? So themes we're thinking of as offshoots of your idea. So let's take the subject of friendship. You might have love, loyalty, jealousy as themes. So they're kind of shooting off that main subject. So what kind of ideas come out of your main idea? So if we were to take toxicity of social media, the rivalry that's involved, the self-esteem, the trolling, all these kind of different ideas stemming off of fake news.
And it might be helpful to go back to what your passions were and see if there are any links between them, because a lot of the time what we're passionate about are all kind of linked in a way. Great, so the next question, 8 of 12, is what are 3 images that support your idea? And in terms of images, they could be anything. So anything from the image of a family photo, the image of a beach and the sea, the image of 2 people sat at a table, and anywhere, that could be anywhere, whether that's a cafe or a kitchen. So think about what 3 images could help support your idea. to help bring us as the audience with you along the journey of this story.
And they also can be as big or as small as you like. So one image could be of, you know, an eyeball looking through a keyhole, but another image could be looking down below as you're on top of Mount Everest. And the great thing about theater is that there's lots of different devices whereby we can go into the keyhole because we have language, because we can describe that feeling, and we can describe being on top of Mount Everest, or how do we show that using the scenery and so forth. So you can be ambitious and let your mind run wild with this. I find that some of the best plays are that actually describe, well, for my taste, that are describing images. So we really get that kind of storytelling. You know, we're on the moon, okay, we're all together, we're in this like theater space, but now we're on the moon and we're all going to engage and suspend our disbelief by being on the moon now. Okay, so question 9 is, what is the smallest object, action, or emotion that illustrates this idea? So what we mean by that is, again, similar to the images. It can be, this one is as small as possible. So if we're using friendship, for example, the smallest object could be a friendship bracelet that's been torn apart. The smallest action could be one friend passing a cup of tea to the other friend. What's the smallest emotion that might express that? It's just a little smile as you watch your friend walking away as they're about to go into an interview for their secondary school or something like that. There's also in terms of there's 2 big words that we can use: microcosm, meaning micro, small, what's the smallest thing, and macrocosm, big, macro, what's the biggest thing. So we're about to come on to that now.
Yeah, so kind of the opposite of this question, the next question is, what is the biggest object, action, or emotion that illustrates your idea? So this could be, again, go as big as you want, like don't feel limited, because like Natasha was saying, the great thing about theatre is that we can use language to express really small things, but also really big things, big events, big ideas. So if part of your story is an alien invasion, then there's a massive explosion because they've arrived, they've landed. Or even the object of a ring, someone proposing, that is huge. That's 2 people committing to one another, or even a scream, someone screaming out of horror or someone screaming out of delight, excitement. So just thinking about what is the biggest of those 3 that illustrates your idea.
Also, although this is of course a writing workshop, we can also think about physicality when we write, and physicality of actors, because basically theater is space and bodies, human bodies. So you can describe images using the body. Obviously, a most obvious case of that would be mime, but how can we, it's just a thought, is how can we use actors' bodies to express friendship? How can we use actors' bodies to express an explosion? Okay, moving on to the penultimate question, question 11. Who is a completely contrasting character to your idea? So if we've got, for example, the climate crisis student protester, who's a completely contrasting character? I mean, there is this one, a grandmother who is a climate crisis denier. So already in their house, there's this massive conflict, and they show very different opposing views, but they're still family. So, and they have to live, they have to live together, because the grandma is the main caregiver. So we can think, who is a completely contrasting character to the one that we've written down.
And then our final question is thinking about what is the completely contrasting location to this idea. And I always like to think it's helpful to think of when we say contrasting, so the opposite. So the opposite, what's the place where this, what's the opposite of where this place could, or where this story could take place. So for example, if you're sitting in an exam, we would expect it would be in an exam hall, but what if the exam was taking place on the moon, like somewhere really where you just don't expect exams to be taking place?
Or
yeah, oh sorry, go on, Natasha.
Sorry, I was going to say, or it's taking place in a hospital because they've had to grab their exam paper and run out because their grandma's in hospital, and they're quickly trying to finish the test in this kind of doctor's appointment room.
Exactly. So thinking about where's the last place you would expect this story to take place, or this idea to take place.
And really, this is again to create some conflict, to create some drama, to create some opposition, because it can get a bit dry, it can get a bit boring if we're just saying one opinion to people that already agree with that opinion. So try to like mix it up a bit. And to surprise people, because we want to surprise people and we want to entertain people when we're writing for the stage. And so having something in a completely different location, already you're like, oh, whoa, what's this? Okay, I'm gonna lean in now. I'm gonna try to figure this out. Okay, so that is the end of that exercise. We're wondering if one or two people would like to share a couple of their answers and what you found surprising about that exercise, or what you found exciting about that exercise. So is there anyone that would like to share?
Ruby, I saw you first. Go for it. I'll unmute you. There you go.
Hi. Well, I'm passionate about mental health, so the first idea was that I would tell it from either the person that is having an experience with the person that has it, or the person that actually has it. And I wanted to just break the misconceptions and stereotypes surrounding like different mental health issues. And I don't know, I thought it was surprising that I actually had so many ideas that I didn't even know I had before. So yeah.
Awesome. What were some of the locations you were thinking about?
Oh, I thought one of the main images that I thought about was like the main character, who I believed immediately was a girl or something, was lying in her own bedroom with the summer like coming into her room, but she's just lying there and she doesn't seem to care about it. So even though it should be a happy like mood and atmosphere, she still doesn't look happy.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a really great way of contrasting the location to what the character is feeling. Well done. So our next exercise is, I think you're all asked to bring two lines of, two lines from one of your favorite songs, and we're going to use those lines as the starting point for a conversation between two characters. So this could be characters that you've already been working on from previous workshops, or a character that you've been working that has come out of the previous exercise, but you're going to use those two lines to start off the dialogue and continue it, and kind of ignore where the lyrics originally come from. Forget about the song and the music video, what have you. These are just blank starting points for you. So we've got an example here. So these are examples of some lyrics in case anyone couldn't think of any or they didn't quite work. Pick one. I'll give you about like 10 seconds You just got to pick any random one, don't worry.
Is there a prize to know which songs they're from, Matilda?
For endless respect.
I think I would not get any of them. When I saw them, I didn't know. I had to do them. Yeah.
The ones I know are all like 1940s jazz lyrics, like I did it my way. So I thought that might be a little bit easy.
Brilliant. So hopefully you've had enough time to pick one of the lyrics, and then this is an example of a scene that I tried writing from one of the lyrics. So Natasha, so I'm A, you'll be B.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Great.
So we'll just quickly read it out to you. When the world just treats you wrong.
Just come with me and I'll take you home. Look, I've seen your adverts a million times.
Please don't interrupt me.
Sorry, I'm in a bit of a rush.
My name is Rainbow. How can I make your dreams come true today?
How much is the Velvet Dreams bed? I can't seem to find the price.
Good choice. Did you know the Velvet Dreams bed set comes in over 300 colours, from baby poo green to orangutan orange?
Cool. I would just like to know the price, please.
All beds bought in our shops or online are forever. We do not offer refunds. However, we do offer a free pair of pajamas if you're not satisfied with any of our products.
Right. So how much is it?
Colour?
Pardon?
What colour have you chosen your bed in?
Piglet pink.
Great. That will come to a total of 3 stars, 1 Milky Way, and some moon dust. So hopefully that's just an example of how weird the scenes can get when starting from lyrics, but that's absolutely fine. Just go with it. Each character should be responding to the line before them. And so we'll give you a couple minutes to see how far you get. If you have any questions, do feel free to ask, or if you need, I just feel like this is a really quick writing exercise, just again, to get your juices flowing for writing conversation, for writing dialogue, because that is kind of how we tell story, is by someone, you need voices to be telling the story. So think about who these characters are, and maybe even relate it back to your the passion that you've first discovered that you had at the beginning of the first exercise. What passions could those characters be talking about, or debating about, or arguing about? See how you get with it.
So just so I Natasha and Matilda, so that in this example, the first 2 lines, when the world treats you wrong, and then B, just come with me and I'll take you home. That's the 2 lines from the song. Yeah. And then you've then sort of continued and you sort of characters. Great. Yeah. And do we need to write loads of text like you've done there, or can we write like 10 lines?
Not at all. Just see how far how it goes. If you end up writing only a couple lines, that's great. Or if you find that it's taken you in all these different directions, go with it. Yeah. Right.
If you can get 5 lines for each character, that would be fabulous. So that would be 10 lines in total. But that's an aim. It's not a requirement. Also, as you can see from the example, it can be quite wacky. It's basically about just like jumping in. And also you can do something if you're a little bit okay, where do I go from here? Perhaps one of the characters wants to change the conversation. Perhaps they're embarrassed by how it's been going forward, or they're angry at what's been said, so they want to completely change direction. That's cool too.
And you can have your characters talking about the passion. They could be debating it. They could be trying to persuade one another to side on a different side. They could be trying to even avoid talking about it. So think about what your characters are doing with that passion.
So maybe just a minute left. You're welcome to look over your work, just scan, see what you've got there. Do you want to change anything? Do you want to add anything? Do you want to take away? Okay, so hope that was interesting for you. We're interested to hear what you might have found surprising about this activity. Could we maybe hear from someone who hasn't shared? Is anyone interested in sharing who hasn't shared before?
Got Nicholas.
Nicholas, do you want to just, how long is yours?
It's not very long.
Okay, do you want to read it out?
Sure. So I picked some lyrics from The Times They Are A-Changing by Bob Dylan.
Great.
So do you want me to say A and B, or should I just say them?
That would, unless you want to do different accents, but maybe
Okay.
A and B.
Okay. A, grandfather, I'm scared. The riots seem to be even closer than before. B, the battle outside raging will soon shake your windows. A, what do you mean? They're yours too. B, yes, boy, but I do not fear change. A, but the walls are caving in. Why can't they just keep quiet? B, and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changing.
Wow.
Brilliant.
That's great. And did you add lots of, I don't know the song hugely well, because I live in, the 1940s. So it's a bit ahead of my time. Did you use lyrics from different parts of the dialogue?
No, I actually only use the lyrics at the start and at the end.
Okay, cool. Great.
Oh, yeah.
Fabulous.
That was really, really powerful in such
Thank
a
you.
short amount of writing.
Great. Shall we, I think we should get to the third exercise.
Yes. So for this, for our last exercise with you, we are going to be essentially plan the structure of a monologue. So you're going to take one of the characters or voices from either of the previous exercises, and they will be the basis of your monologue. They will be the characters you're going to use to write your monologues. And the brief that we want to give you is that you're going to write about a character who experiences an arrival. This can be abstract or literal arrival, so it could be another person, it could be that they're waiting for something to happen to them, or they're waiting for a change in their life or what have you, but they are expectant of something is the brief that we want to give you. And you can remember to use stage directions so that you can show us what the character is thinking or how they're feeling. Again, kind of what Natasha was saying earlier about physicality, thinking about, is the character stood quite strongly with their broad shoulders, or are they quite nervous, meaning that they're kind of slouched, or are they walking up and down, so they're pacing, so that shows us that they're thinking about something that's troubling them. So thinking about how could I use stage directions to show what the character's thinking or feeling. But we're going to go through, in this exercise, we're going to go through with you a structure. So you've got a kind of plan, and you can use that plan to take away with you to then write the monologue.
Yeah, so just as a clarification, we're just going to work on the plan. We're just thinking about what happens at the beginning, what happens in the middle, what happens in the fork in the road, which we're going to explain, and then what happens at the end. So we're not expecting you to write this all down in 10 minutes. And another thing is, in terms of stage directions, what happens if the character is doing perhaps a kind of everyday task? Like, what happens if the character is chopping up an onion? So if they're an angry character, how does that physicality work when they're doing that task? What happens if the character is sad and they're crying because of the, because of the onions smell? What happens if the character is joyful? What happens if the character is frantic? What happens if the character is really, really tired, in terms of just that physical action of cutting an onion as an example. Okay, so we're going to talk about the beginning. So in your monologue, you can just write bullet points, however you want to do this. You could do, you know, bubbles or whatever you like. So where is your character? Where is your character at the start of this monologue? That a physical location would be good, but you can also think about their mental space. Where are they? Where are they in their head? What has the character been doing before this monologue takes place? Have they just had an argument with someone? Have they just slept for 18 hours? Have they not had any sleep at all? Have they just drunk 3 cups of coffee all in one go? Have they received good news? Have they received bad news? So what have they been doing before this monologue takes place? And the final point for the beginning is, is this character feeling about this impending arrival? How are they feeling about that? Are they feeling excited? Are they feeling nervous? Are they feeling apprehensive? Are they feeling extreme anger? So how are they feeling about this upcoming arrival?
And now we're going to talk about the middle of your monologue. Does your character like or dislike this arrival? So they've got wind that someone is on their way, or something is on their way. Do they like it? Do they not like it? Think about how you could show us that they like it. So if they like it, do they welcome this arrival? Are they friendly? Do they open the door? You know, do they curtsy? Do they bow, depending on who this arrival is? And if they dislike it, again, how do they show that they dislike this person or thing that's coming? Is it that they put the locks on all the doors, close all the windows and pretend not to be in? Do they, when whoever's coming or whatever is coming, they pretend it's not there, they pretend not to see it or speak to it? So again, so think about what actions do they take when they do like this arrival, or what actions do they take or not take when they don't like this arrival?
Yeah, and also if they have to take this, if they have to engage with this arrival, but they don't like it, but they have to pretend they like it, how do we see that as well? So how do they welcome this arrival? Okay, so the next little section is the fork in the road. So your character is given new information which provides them with a choice. 1 choice, 2 choices, 3 choices, different options which they could take. The character realizes these different options. So what are some of those options? So if we take the climate crisis student protester, the arrival could be, they know the protest is coming down their street and they're desperate to go. But their grandma won't let them. So do they, you know, jump out of their window? Do they set up some crazy scheme where the grandma thinks they're there, they put on a recording of their voice, or they pretend that they're with their friends, something like this, so then they can get out? Do they're desperate to, they literally can't, they're on the top floor, they can't get out, but they like hold a sign so that they try to participate? Do they have a big argument with their grandma? Do they try to run out the door? Or they're not able to participate at all, and we see them react to this news that I can't get involved in the way that I want to?
So that actually needs quite nicely onto the final bit, which is realizing all those different options that they've got. Which one do they take? What action are they going to take next? So they've seen, am I going to be able to get out the window? Or am I going to be able to sneak past behind grandma while she's asleep? Or am I going to have to confront grandma and say, this is important to me, I have to be at this protest? So decide which of those options does your character take, and then show us what happens. What happens when they commit to that action? What are the consequences of it? Is the grandma angry? Is the grandma, or is she proud that her grandchild stood up to her? Or is she surprised that her grandchild is so passionate about climate change? So those kinds of going through all those points will help you push the story forward, and also reveal something about the character you may not have realized. Who is this character? Why are they speaking now? Why is it important that they are heard now?
And also we can show it through physical action. So let's say the student puts on, they're going to go on the protest, and they decide that they're going to change their outfit, and we don't know what that is, and we watch them as they put on like a big polar bear outfit to go save the polar bears. Or is it that they have like a homemade t-shirt that they've made with, you know, like with paint? Do they have placards? Or what are things that can show? So that was a changing their clothes. But it could be different. It could be a whole host of different physical actions that they take. Do they put on war paint, you know?
And you can come back to this structure if there's another character that you have in mind, and you could go through these bullet points again with them, so that you can get, you're building your story, you're building your play. With the more monologues you're able to write, the more things you're getting characters to do and go through.
Sometimes it can be helpful to think about, what do you want to happen at the end? So that's your kind of goal, and then work backwards from that. So I really want this character to, I want them to run away from home, essentially, and go join this protest. So I want that to happen. How do I work backwards? How do I make that happen? How do I make them have the decision, okay, I'm going to challenge the authority figure. I'm going to challenge my grandma on this, and so forth. But also, how do I make it, how do I create conflict? So the grandma is essentially conflict. The person with the opposing view, and the authority figure. How do we get around that in terms of the story, in terms of the drama? So, who would like to share their work that hasn't spoken?
I saw Kyle first. I'm just going to unmute you, sorry. Oh, I can't unmute you. Oh, there you go.
Hi. So I decided my character, they were going to take on like this adventure. So where the character is like they're at a cave. It's actually them arriving at a place. Previously they've been traveling, so they're a bit tired, a bit worn out. They're feeling quite nervous, but also excited. They like the arrival, they welcome it, they take it as a challenge. I then decided, I was thinking, what type of, what fork in the road would they have? I ended up thinking maybe they'd get like someone else there that they would offer them money, or like a greed temptation. I felt like my character would reject this and go on to taking their adventure, their opportunity, to doing what they can. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I like this idea that this person that maybe tempts them with something, is it like an archetypal figure? Is it a kind of like a demon or a troll, or is it a human figure, or is it it could be that they're imagining this person because they've been out on the road for so long, they haven't had much to eat or drink, and they're kind of creating these illusions of I mean, it's one option.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that a lot actually, because like I think when you were going through each point, I think it was clear that stories are about decisions, they're about making decisions, but also getting to see the consequences of those decisions. And you've given your character really dramatic stakes. Like you've made it that they've arrived at this cave, they have to go in no matter what anyone says, or you know, and they're having to challenge things, the feelings that they're feeling. Like that was really, yeah, really clear.
Thank you.
Shall we have one more?
Caleb.
So my character is outside boarding school. His parents have sent him to boarding school. Previously, he said goodbye to his parents. He is nervous and scared. He dislikes going to boarding school. He doesn't welcome the challenge. He paces about nervously outside the school. His alternative option is that he can skip school and go somewhere else. He's undecisive at first, but he eventually goes in.
That's great. And that's really the inner turmoil of that character that really doesn't want to go, but follows against their own, like what they want. They actually go and do the thing that they've been told to do, which is kind of interesting, but we're hearing about their inner turmoil there.
And I like the stage direction of paces nervously. Like that says so much without the character having to say anything. You've encapsulated a feeling in an action, so really well done.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
The takeaway for this is using the plans that you've got of your monologue is to go away and write them. And they don't have to be incredibly long Shakespearean monologues. They can just be a couple of minutes, kind of getting into the story and seeing what decisions your character makes and how they feel about it. And potentially, especially now with this, now that we're all kind of online and we're all kind of indoors, maybe consider filming it and seeing if this is something, because that's essentially what writing for the stage is. You're writing for something that is performed. So thinking about that when you're writing your monologue is, what do I want to tell the audience? What do I want to tell whoever's going to be watching this?
Yeah, and thinking about this idea that actually you can create something during this period of time that other people could watch as an audience. So thinking in terms of the kind of practicalities of this moment, could you set your piece inside a house, in somebody else's house, in a garden, in a park, on the street, something that you could actually just use your phone to film? Would you perform it? Would you get someone else to perform it? Because you guys could swap over and say, okay, I'm going to perform your monologue and you perform mine, and you film it, get your dad to film me. And then you've suddenly got all these, that you could have like a little mini monologue festival. And you could also use, if you're like, my piece has to be set on the moon, it couldn't possibly be set anywhere. Saturn doesn't work for me, Venus doesn't work for me, it has to be the moon. You could use, you could get creative with the green screen on Zoom or Skype. You can download these different things and have that as your background. Also thinking about the idea of your beginning is a minute, your middle is a minute long, and your ending, there you go. Rob's he's in outer space.
I'm actually near Venus rather than the moon.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you've got Wi-Fi over there. That's some strong broadband. So beginning 1 minute, middle 1 minute, end 1 minute. And then you've got a lovely self-contained little monologue that you or someone else could perform, put it online. It's short enough to grab people's attention. And it's a really great way to start actually creating work and getting it performed.
And I think it's not something that you necessarily need to put online if you don't want to. It's just a way of you being able to see and hear the work, especially in these moments where we haven't got access to full casts and all of those other bits and pieces. But yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And you could just do it for yourself. You could do it just for your family, send it just to your family. You could send it just to your friends. It's just about having a go and playing around. It doesn't have to be seen by the world.
Brilliant. So we're near the end. Do we have any? We've got time for probably one question. And as I said, if people haven't heard, we're going to be doing a big Q&A session with all the writers in a couple of weeks. But do we have any questions to finish the session off? You're getting brilliant. It would be lovely if oh, everyone's going goodbye. Oh, no, a question. Oh, Zena, no, Zena, go on. I thought you were saying goodbye.
Sorry. I just wondered where you trained. Like, did you train as a writer on creative writing courses, or did you do chemistry and just fall into playwriting, or did you go to, did you do drama at uni, or what's your backgrounds?
Natasha, go.
I've done a load of different things. But in a nutshell, I studied musical theatre at a drama school. I did a creative writing course at Birkbeck. I've done a lot of different music stuff. So I study Kadai musicianship. So I'm constantly diversifying and trying to hone my skills in different ways. So I've kind of done a smorgasbord of education, as well as doing a lot of youth theatre.
Okay.
And kind of similar but different to Natasha. I did do kind of GCSE drama. I did English literature at A-level, and then I went to do creative writing and English literature at uni, and then I did a master's in playwriting and screenwriting, and lots of kind of short theatre courses.
Very good. Great question. Thank you so much, Zena. We're going to have to finish there, folks. So can we just say our brilliant thanks to Natasha and Matilda in our own way. Either some waves, some brilliant, there's some lovely comments coming through on the chat, which is brilliant. Thank you so much, folks, for being with us. As I say, there's going to be a big session of quick Q&A with all the writers later on. Please do use the takeaway exercise. It's a good, you've done all the prep in these 40 minutes. So do use use the next maybe half an hour or so just to write up that monologue. It'll keep the writing muscle going. But thank you very much.